Good day, students. Welcome to Basic Science Lessons. In our class today, we'll continue from where we stopped last week. We started with the topic living things, and we said living things are those things that have life in them. And we said plants and animals are the two groups of living things. And in our class last week, we were able to look at examples of plants and examples of animals. And we also were able to look at differences in structure between plants and animals, and we'll continue from where we stopped last week. In our class today, we'll be looking at plants and animal cells. Today, we'll be considering the cell of plants and the cell of animals. These cells are first discovered by a scientist called Robert Hooke in 1635 to 1703. And Robert Hooke was able to look at the thin slice of cork through a microscope in the 60s. He saw what looked like a honeycomb, the tin in which bees store honey. He called each space a cell. So Robert Hooke is the first person to discover the cell. And he discovered these cells when he looked at the slice of a cork. And these cork are dead protective tissues between the bark of plants and the cambium. Usually you see them, they are used in making the cover or the lid of the wine bottles. You look at your wine bottle, you see one woody structure. That is a cork. That is produced from a cork. And Robert Hooke, when he put this slice under microscope, he saw something that looked like a honeycomb, the spongy part of the honey where bees store their honey. And he called this because that honeycomb has a space in them, so each of the space in it, he called it a cell. It is now known that plants and animals are made up of units. These units are called cells. They are microscopic, that is, they can only be seen with the aid of microscope because of their sizes. So the cells are basic units of life. The cells are basic units of life, and they are first discovered by a scientist called Robert Hooke between 1635 to 1703. And we say these cells are microscopic, and both plants and animals are made up of these units called cells. Types of plant cells. There are many types of plant cells. Some of these are cells from leaves and cells from roots. So in plants, we have so many cells. These cells are found both in the leaves and in the roots. Types of animal cells. There are also many kinds of animal cells. Animals too have several kinds of cells. These include the nerve cells. The nerve cells are message carriers that pick messages from different parts of our body or pick stimulus, respond to stimuli, and send the message to the central nervous system, which is comprising of the brain and the spinal cord. And we also have the muscle cells, we have the liver cells, and we have the cheek cells. They perform different functions. Each has a structure that enables it to perform its function. These cells perform different functions in the part of the body where they are found, and their structures are also different that enable them to carry these functions. Structure of plant cells. A pallisade mesophyll cell found in the leaf of plants is long and cylindrical in shape. And a pallisade is an even row of cells. You find this one. These are cells that are even in number and they make a row. So you call them a pallisade cells. These cells are long and cylindrical in shape. They are long and they have a shape of a cylinder. So the plant cell has a cylindrical shape. It has a cell wall made up of substance called cellulose. The cell has an outermost part called a cell wall, and this cell wall has a substance in it, and you call the name of that substance cellulose. The substance that is found in the cell wall is called the cellulose, and the cell wall is the outermost part of the plant cell. Inside the cell wall is a cell membrane. Inside the cell wall, you find another wall called the cell membrane. It is the outer boundary of the living substance in the cell called cytoplasm. The cell membrane is the outer boundary of another part of the inner part of the cell called the cytoplasm. So inside the cell membrane, you find what you call the cytoplasm. Within the cytoplasm are several parts of the cells. So many parts of the cells are contained in the cytoplasm. One of these is the nucleus. One of the parts you see inside the cytoplasm is the nucleus. So the plant cell has two double walls. The first one is a cell wall that has cellulose, and the second one is a cell membrane that serves as the boundary of the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the inner part of the cell, and it has so many parts. And we say one of these parts is called the nucleus. The nucleus controls the activities of the cells. Every other activities that occur in the cell is controlled by the nucleus. And then we also have the vacuoles. The vacuoles are sacs which contain a liquid called cell sap inside the cytoplasm. The first thing we have there is the nucleus inside the cytoplasm. The second one there is the vacuole. And we say these vacuoles are sacs which contain liquid called cell sap. Cell sap are contained in the vacuole. Cellulose are contained in the cell wall. There are also spherical green bodies called chloroplast inside the cytoplasm. Apart from the nucleus and the vacuoles, the next thing we have is a spherical green bodies called chloroplast. These chloroplasts contain the substance chlorophyll, which enable the green leaves to make food during photosynthesis. So we have in the cell wall, the major parts of the plant cells are the cell wall, the cell membrane, the cytoplasm. Inside the cytoplasm, we have the nucleus, the vacuole, and the chloroplast. And the chloroplast, we say, chloroplasts are pigments that contain the structure called chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll is the green part of the plant that aids photosynthesis. That is what gives the plant its green color. So without the chloroplast, photosynthesis cannot be completed. Thus, plants cannot produce their own food. Below is the diagram of the plant cells with the different structures we have. We say the plant cell is cylindrical in shape, and it has an outer wall called cellulose, cell wall, which contains a liquid substance called cellulose. Has an outer wall called cell wall that contains cellulose. And the next is the cell membrane, which is bounding the cytoplasm. And the cytoplasm has several parts, and one of the parts of the cytoplasm is nucleus, which controls the activities of the cell. So the function of the nucleus is that it controls the activities of the cell. Second, we have the vacuoles, and we say vacuoles are sacs that contain a liquid called cell sap. And then the third we say we have are spherical green bodies called chloroplast. So we have the nucleus, we have the vacuoles, and we have the chloroplast inside the cytoplasm. Then we have the cytoplasm, we have the cell membrane, and we have the cell wall. So the major parts of the plant cell are the cell wall, cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, vacuoles, and chloroplast. Structure of an animal cell. Structure of an animal cell. A human chick cell, as an example of animal cell, has no cell wall. We are picking the chick cell as an example of animal cell, and the chick cell has no cell wall. So it means that the animal cell has no cell wall. At its outermost boundary, it is its cell membrane. What the animal cell has is a cell membrane, no cell wall. The cell membrane encloses a living substance called cytoplasm, which fills the cell. So the cell membrane now has the cytoplasm, within the cytoplasm is the nucleus, which is the controlling center of the cell. No vacuoles are present. So vacuoles are absent in animal cells. So all that the animal cell has is the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. These are the major structures of the animal cell. With this, we have come to the end of our class today, and by way of summary, we started by looking at the cells of plants and animals, and we said the cell is the basic unit of life, and we said these cells are first discovered by a scientist called Robert Hooke between 1635 and 1703, and we say he used the cork of a plant and he saw what looked like a honeycomb structure, and we said the cork are mass of dead tissues between the bark and the cambium of the plant, and it is from the cork that the lid of our wine bottles are produced. And then we moved on to look at the diagram of the structure of the honeycomb structure of the cell, and then we looked at examples of plant cells. We say we have the root cells and the leaf cells, and we look at it also the diagrams. And then the next we look at examples of animal cells, the cells that are present in animals. And we say we have the nerve cells, we have the blood cells, we have the bone cells, we have the muscle cell and the nerve cells. And we also look at their diagrams. And then next we looked at the structure of the plant cell, And we said the plant cell has structures like the cell wall, the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the nucleus, the vacuoles, and also the chloroplast. And then we now move on to look at structure of an animal cell. We said the animal cell does not have cell wall. All it has is cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, and vacuoles are absent. So when we meet next, we'll continue from where we stop, and we'll be looking at differences between the plants and the animal cells. Have a wonderful day and see you next time.